I'm excited to be back home for this particular Juno Awards because I'm performing with The Weeknd.
That's it. Sorry.
Exactly. No, it's okay. I'm performing with Abel, and we co-wrote alongside 3 other Canadians. There's Abel, myself, Belly, and Dahila. We all wrote this great song for the movie 50 Shades of Grey.
Right.
And we'll be performing it tonight.
Yeah, you were involved with another song for 50 Shades of Grey. Can you tell me about that as well?
An incredible artist by the name of Skylar Gray, and she's a well-known songwriter. And early on in the process of the film, when not the director so much as the studio approached me, because Mike Knobloch, who happens to be the head of music at Universal Pictures, a big fan of Wrecking Ball, and then just quickly learned a lot about me as a pianist. And the movie 50 Shades of Grey has a piano-driven theme, so they thought maybe it'd be a right fit. And he says, "Why don't you take a shot at writing a theme song or one of our key songs?" And so I did. And I got together with Skylar, and in one afternoon we wrote this beautiful song called "I Know You." And the irony is that song was used. It was one of the earliest songs to be accepted, by the author, by the studio, by the director, but that means nothing really in the film world because things can change right up into the last minute. However, with this song, they were temping the movie. Just they had various places where they were going to put it, and then eventually end credit, and then the movie decides with Sam Taylor Johnson, who happens to be the director. She decides to change the ending of the movie where they need a male singer. So I end up bumping my own song and co-writing a new one with Abel, Belly, and Dahila for the movie called "Earned It." So I end up with both end credit songs in the movie. Completely
fantastic,
crazy.
That's great,
and so great.
I know you're part of what you're doing now is, you've had so much success in terms of the songwriting world and instrumental music world, and now you're sort of making that transition to audiovisual. So
yes.
I guess the move to LA was part of that, and you're kind of getting more into the movie type of business.
That's exactly right. I mean, probably the biggest reason for my move to LA was to satisfy my my desire to just fulfill my instrumental needs, and I love great pop songs. I love writing pop music, but I have a greater need in me to sort of fulfill, just to write instrumental music and exercise more creativity, if that makes any sense. Even harmonically, because you have more freedom.
Sure.
In film and stuff. So that's off to an incredible start in Hollywood. Even with a movie like 50 Shades, what people may not realize is that love or loathe a movie like 50 Shades, there's it's such an event. The world's biggest movie of the last 6 weeks. It's already grossed over $500 million, and your name attached to that. All of a sudden, every studio starts to call you, and all the heads of the studio start to call you because they want another one of those songs for their films.
Sure.
And as that's happening, there's a very organic process where they're discovering me now as an instrumental artist and as a composer for the medium, right. for picture.
Where do the songs come from? Where does the music come from?
You don't know.
And when no one really knows?
You don't.
But is it more of will a phrase strike you, or will a chord strike you, or will a melody present itself in your head? Or is it just any combination of all of them?
It's all of them. I think, what I've learned now as a 40-something-year-old composer and songwriter is to devise my own system to grab. Okay, so you and I could walk into this room, I can make la 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 la, and all of a sudden I think it's a great melody, and in my head I can hear the entire orchestration. I'll sing into my dictaphone, and having a system where I organize that. So I have thousands and thousands and thousands of melodic ideas that I hold and I organize in my computer and I revisit weekly, if not almost every other day. However, you can, as they say, as Quincy Jones would say, or it was Bruce Swedien, leave room for God, or a song like Wrecking Ball. Where I was holding on to, 3 of us, Sasha, Mozella, and I, we collaborated on the song, and we equally created some incredible melodies and stuff. And I know that when part of the hook in the chorus, that la 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 was a piano melody of mine that I had hanging around for a while. That became
just amazing. That suddenly it's this thing,
and suddenly it's this thing,
all over the world,
and you attach a word like key phrase like it came like a wrecking ball, and Miley Cyrus naked on a wrecking ball and 750 million hits on YouTube later.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Wild.
Right? What would you advise a young person who wants to get into film composing to do? What would be your key piece of advice to someone who wanted to do that? Say a young SOCAN member.
The biggest thing, number one, is work your ass off. And what does that mean? It means immerse yourself, get to know all the great composers, study the scores. And yes, the lay of the land today for composer is different than it was maybe 20 years ago. I mean, you have the classic composer like John Williams, who's just a master, genius, and who does everything by hand still at 80 something years old, which is amazing. Then now there's the new type of film score, which seems to be the new style, which is a lot of pads and drones and stuff like that. So you have to know your technology. There's no other way around it, and that's putting in your 10,000 plus hours, immersing yourself, not sleeping, understanding, and because that's great training for the crazy deadlines that happen in this world.
Right.
Let's talk about deadlines for a second. I mean, when I found out, 50 Shades of Grey was released on Valentine's Day, and they didn't have an end credit song last week of November still. This is 2 months prior to the film going to the world.
That's incredible.
It was my original song with Skylar, but they had changed the scene.
Right.
Even first week of December, they weren't too sure. We hadn't even really written the song yet.
Wow.
And when we wrote the song and we played it for the filmmakers, notably Dana Sana, who's the music supervisor, then Mike Knobloch, head of studios, and then Sam Taylor Johnson, who ultimately had the final say. She's the director. The great thing is that they immediately reacted to the song. They freaked, they flipped, they said, we have to have this in our movie. And then they said, now you've got 6 days to go produce and mix the Weeknd song and Skylar Grey's song. And I didn't sleep.
Can you speak for just a second about maybe how SOCAN helps film composers get their money on the back end? I mean, you get paid up front a certain amount, and I guess there's different perks or points where you get paid. But SOCAN, I know, has become very important to film composers about getting their payment on the back end.
It's massively important because budgets are even different today. I mean, there's only 10 to 12 composers in Hollywood right now who are commanding well over 6 figures a film. Otherwise, when you think about it, a young composer maybe get excited to get paid $50,000 for a film, absolutely. But $50,000 when you're investing over $50,000 in equipment, sometimes it's in the beginning it's tough. So it's a weird game. I can only talk about my experience and how SOCAN has been there for me, rock solid, steadfast through my 20 plus years now with them. I mean, the first thing that I ever did in Canada was the Camilla Scott theme, and it was this talk show for CTV, and at that time I was signed to Sony Music as a songwriter. And keep in mind, I'm giving you an age point, I'm 19, 20 years old. 21, 22. But young, regardless. And the Camilla theme was, again, just an accident. I saw an ad in the Globe and Mail saying, Camilla Scott doing a new talk show, and I called up the producer, Jordan Schwartz, at CTV, and I said, do you have your theme? He goes, we have something, but if you've got something you want to submit, do it. And I had my, renting an apartment here in Toronto, a bachelor. It's smaller than this entire hotel room, and I've got my keyboard, and I'm composing the Camilla Scott theme on my O&W Pro X, which is an 88 weighted note keyboard, but I had to put it on my knees because I was working on it from midnight till 4 a.m. And the guy would hear the clunking of my hands downstairs, and he'd just shut and up, he would pound the wall. So it was the weirdest. I had to absorb the sound of my knees, and because I was gigging all day.
Right.
There's an end to the story. I was a struggling musician, making decent money but I was working and busting my balls off. For 8 to 10 hours a day, playing piano at the Four Seasons and centros, and then trying to compose my first gig for a major television network, CTV. And I knew I had this catchy little thing. So I sent it off on a I think it was a tape at the time, or a DAT tape, and they fell in love with it, and so it became the theme of the show. Fast forward to my first royalty check, 9-10 months later, and the November payout. and I'd never seen money like that before.
What's next? What are you doing? What are you up to next?
Honestly,
That you can talk about.
no, it's tough. I mean, I have now a plethora of incredible movie commitments lined up all the way up to the year 2018 right now.
Wow.
I mean, I can't tell you what studio, but I am working on a massive animation film right now, which is great, and I'm doing all the songs and score.
Excellent.
For one of the major studios. The biggest thing right now, also in light of even the Weeknd's recent success and Wrecking Ball, is just is which projects to choose.
Right.
Because a lot of exciting. I mean, Seal's coming up finally, a project that I wrote. A huge song, a beautiful song I wrote with Seal and Trevor Horn.
Nice.
I got to work with those two, and they've been certainly idols of mine for me growing up.
Yeah. In terms of songwriting, I always liked Seal's song "A Prayer for the Dying." I thought that was an
of course,
incredible lyric.
It's incredible. Yeah,
lyric.
it's
Like,
some of it's one of the best songs.
yeah, I just love that.
Other
song.
than the one he wrote with me, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
The one with you is clearly going to be the best. Stephan, thank you so much for doing this. Appreciate for you taking the time.
Thank you, SOCAN. Thank you, Howard.